Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today's topic is the pot at the end of the rainbow. This pot can contain anything we desire. It is our desire, our intention, that literally fills it with whatever we want in whatever quantity we want. What does intention mean? It is the paradigm that you have, the belief system. What you believe is possible, is possible. What you believe is not possible, is not possible. The universe responds entirely to our intention. Everything we think is real. It happens, sooner or later. So we must be extremely careful with what we think and desire, because it will be fulfilled anyway. Why? Because everything we think and feel is an electromagnetic field. It is either under an electromagnetic field or inside it. Everything in the universe is electromagnetism. Everything. There are 4 forces, but electromagnetism is the one that governs these desires, these intentions. We are a radio station that broadcasts all the time, and this inevitably comes back to us. The greater the desire, the faster it comes back. Desire is what puts energy into form. Thought creates form. And desire puts energy into it so that it becomes a manifested reality in this dimension. All of this is created in another dimension, one above, and manifests itself in our practical life, in the 3rd dimension, so to speak, after a certain amount of time. This time depends on how much you are able to sustain an idea and energy. Sustain the form you want, without doubting, without fear, without wavering. I want it, I don't want it, I don't believe it. So, that's why it's difficult to manifest things. Most people have a lot of difficulty creating what they want, because of this. Because it wavers. They only come with 100% certainty, 100% faith, 100%. So 100%. 1 month, 2, 3, 6, 1 year, 2, 3, 5, 10 years, 50 years. This only happens if the person is absolutely convinced of the laws that govern all of this, so that they can maintain a constant mental and emotional goal for years, if necessary. If there is the slightest doubt, it is cancelled and everything starts again. So, if you doubt that the car will arrive, the car disappears. And you need to create the car again. Put energy into it again. Everything mentally and emotionally, so that the car can start to form again. A week goes by, you think the car won't come and you open the garage to look, and then you get discouraged. A person comes along and says something that shakes your belief, you go back and start all over again. That's why it's a constant up and down thing, and nothing is created. Our DNA is a code. It's an open code. So much so that sheep are no longer cloned. People are no longer mapped. A mouse with an ear this big? Another fluorescent animal? And so on, there are several things that have already been patented. Patented life forms. Because they remove a gene, change some genes and a being with new characteristics appears. This means that when it is well understood, it will be possible to manipulate living beings in any way you want. It is a code. Of course, there is a limit that I will explain. There are 3 billion chemical pairs that give us our human shape, so to speak. All of this can be modified. There is a DNA that is not, let's say, in the 3rd dimension. It is a magnetic field, it has an enormous amount of information, 100 trillion pieces of information in the magnetic part of the DNA. But, in current science, this is not considered. They only see molecular biology, they only see what is tangible. But everything that exists has an electromagnetic field. So, this shows, for example, the problem of the paradigm. If you don't see, if you don't accept that everything emits an electromagnetic field, and has intrinsic information in it, you are trapped in a material dimension. You will try to find a solution, all within materialism. You will try to change the DNA, only in the biochemical, biomolecular part. Whereas most of its information is in its magnetic field. This is a small example, for you to see the complexity of this world, of this third dimension. How difficult it is to achieve things in this dimension, because the paradigm is completely wrong. If you build the foundation of a building on the wrong calculations, it will collapse. And unfortunately, this entire civilization is built on completely wrong foundations. Hence the difficulties that exist in all areas, relationships, business, economics, health, education, etc. Everything is so difficult. It is so problematic, looking at the globe as a whole, planet Earth, because of this, because we only look at the particle side. Let's see if we can make this very clear today. Quantum mechanics is not a seven-headed beast. It is advertised as being difficult for the population to make it difficult to understand. Because if you understand quantum mechanics, your life changes. Everything changes. This is the key. The secret of the secret of the secret is quantum mechanics. It is the basis of the paradigm that is wrong, understand? Classical physics. Everything is wrong because it is all in Newton's mechanics, in classical mechanics. Changing that, changes everything. If you don't have the key, you won't open any door. If you now have the master key, you can open all doors. You only need one key, understanding quantum mechanics. What does it mean to understand quantum mechanics? Although there are dozens of experiments, there is one that is basic, fundamental. It is the famous double-slit experiment. It was carried out on this planet 205 years ago, 205 years. 2 centuries. 2 centuries later, 99.99% of the Earth's population has never even heard of this, which is fundamental. Now, we have 60, 70, or 80 years of quantum mechanics. A century after Max Planck said that quantum existed, in 1900. Everyone has a cell phone, radio, television, a single metro ticket, free toll passes, wireless internet, GPS. All this electronic paraphernalia, and they don't even know why it works. What else can be done with this electromagnetic field? That's the difficulty, there is no questioning. You pick up a device, press a little button, talk to China, the United States, anywhere in the world, and if you want, ask questions. Where's the cord? Where's the cord for this thing? There isn't one. You can use the little box, cell phone, at 120 km per hour inside the car. You pick up the cell phone, type, talk, hang up while the car is going at 120 km per hour. You get in the elevator, go up, go down and keep talking. How is this connection made? There is an explanation. The wave that carries your conversation is everywhere. It is the only possible explanation. But this could be a lie. The only possible explanation, for laymen, is that, this wave, this information, is everywhere. Why is the car traveling at 120 km per hour and you are still talking on your cell phone? And a spaceship in orbit? At 28,000 km per hour, and still talking on the radio? How does that work? And the robot that is on Mars? This means that the wave from your cell phone, which can talk to the neighbor in front, this same wave would be able to talk to Mars. The wave is everywhere. When you get the harmonic resonance CD and take it home for the first time, I advise you to play it at 0 volume, no volume, press play and you can go. You don't need to stand next to the device that is playing the CD. It is the biggest surprise. But how? Why would you have to stay next to the device if you can drive at 120 km per hour and talk on your cell phone without any problem? This kind of questioning is incredible. What is the difference, in electromagnetic terms, between the resonance CD and the cell phone? Do you realize? It's the paradigm. This is the problem with the paradigm. That's why all this paraphernalia is used without any questioning, but in my case, as soon as they explain what can be done with resonance on a CD, for example, there is the biggest question imaginable, but how? Do you question this on the cell phone? No. Do you realize? Now, why is there this questioning about resonance? Because you don't believe that the wave is everywhere, but you don't question the cell phone. Why? Because you don't understand what this reality is like, the physical world, so to speak. If you don't understand this, everything becomes mystical, religion, magic, witchcraft, sorcery, and so on. Humanity tends to consider everything that is not understood as magic. If we, today, went back to 1300, 1500 with a cell phone or a camera in our hands, we would be burned immediately. Because it can only be witchcraft to capture an image that appears on your camera, and a little box, cell phone, that talks to another little box, it can only be. Well, that was 500 years ago. Or how much? 100 years ago? Because 100 years ago, they destroyed the devices of a Brazilian inventor, Roberto Landel, who tested a radio here in Santana. He is not recognized as the creator of the radio, but in 1800, 1900 he tested it in Santana/Sao Paulo, in the presence of the British consul, but that does not exist in history. And they destroyed his laboratory, because it could only be something, guess who? The devil. Because it could only be something, guess who? The devil. Everything that is not understood has to have a scapegoat, someone who will be blamed. Just as today, we laugh about 1500, in 100 or 200 years, if I tell you how people react to harmonic resonance today, people will also die laughing and say, wow, what a thing. How did these people not understand that? And they will say the same thing I am saying now, they still used cell phones, and they didn't believe in electromagnetism. This means that the possibilities are infinite, but that people are using a tiny part of their capabilities, of the universe's potential to provide everything you want. A tiny part. It's impossible to even describe or quantify how much is being left aside, because we don't understand how this world works. People are born, they eat, they drink, they sleep, they die, and what did they add? What did they add? Nothing. We need to open our eyes. Come here and open your eyes. Where am I? Where did I come from? What am I doing here? Where am I going? We need to ask ourselves some questions. Just like we should ask ourselves about our cell phones too. Otherwise, we're being treated like animals, just like Pavlov, the Russian, conditioned dogs to salivate as he wanted. Our conditioning is much more sophisticated, but it's just as conditioned as any animal. Let's go back to the double slit. What is an electron? It's part of the atom. What is an atom? The smallest brick that builds this entire reality here. If we put a microscope on it and look deeper and zoom in, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, we will see an atom, which contains three little balls, let's say, a proton, in the nucleus, with a positive charge, a neutron, and an electron, which has a negative charge, spinning around. This is the simplest description possible. It doesn't matter if we have a description like this or if we project a drawing on the wall with a little ball stuck to another little ball and another little ball spinning around, like the solar system or the Earth and the Moon. Is there any difficulty in understanding that there is a proton and a neutron together and an electron spinning around? The thing is, most people don't know that there is such a thing as an atom. They don't know. So, perhaps the difficulty in understanding everything I explain is because they don't know what I'm talking about. What is this atom? The atom is the substance that builds this entire reality. Chemistry works by joining atoms together to form a thing called a molecule. Two atoms stuck together become a molecule. By joining several molecules together, you have a cell, for example, several of them have an organ, several of them have a human being. So, it's little bricks that form little bricks, they organize themselves, and we have this whole reality created. In the atom, there is a positive pole and a negative pole, which is the electron. Taking just one of them, an electron, and shooting it at the wall, if there were two slits, two openings, there, what happens in the experiment? What did it show? That the electron, a little ball, called a particle, in physics, passes through the two slits, the two holes. How does something pass through two holes at the same time? That's the question. This is the fundamental experiment of quantum mechanics, carried out in 1805. From 1805 until now, practically no one has understood this experiment, but they are using all this electronics, based on this experiment. This double-slit experiment shows that the little ball, called an electron, a particle, that you send through two holes, is not a particle. Because of course, how can something pass through two places at the same time? That doesn't exist. As a particle. But as a wave, yes. So, the experiment shows that there is constructive interference, there, behind the sensor. Why? Because several waves passed simultaneously through the two slits and interfered behind. So it shows some white fringes. That's what it proved, that this entire reality is made of waves. So, the electron is a particle and a wave at the same time. At the same time. We choose whether we want to treat it as a particle or a wave. We, humans, the observer, our consciousness makes this choice. A chair is made of molecules, molecules are made of atoms, an atom is made of electrons, and there is an electromagnetic field around it, that's why there is light here, and it is a particle or a wave. 100 molecules have been projected through two slits and passed through as a wave. So, when people said years ago, but this only happens with one electron, that is not true. They have already done experiments with 100 molecules, which is huge in atomic terms. The 100 molecules passed through the two slits as a wave. The more you test, the more you prove what we are explaining. The more you test, the more you prove that the universe is as quantum mechanics shows. It doesn't matter if you take 100 molecules or take the whole chair and throw it, it will pass through the double slit. A chair will pass through two holes. The physical chair. A particle? No, the wave of the chair. Everything is a wave, everything is a particle, at the same time, we are the ones who choose. This concept changes everything. Based on this concept, you start to understand, you just have to draw conclusions, one thing leads to another, which leads to another, which leads to another, you change the whole reality. Sooner or later, this entire paradigm, belief system, sociological, political, economic, educational, economic, relationship, everything that man does will have to change and come under the paradigm of quantum mechanics. That everything is a wave. If everything is a wave, everything is connected, because there is quantum entanglement, which is another experiment. This experiment shows that you take a particle, touch it with another particle, which in physics is called correlating, separate it and release it, one goes one way and the other goes the other way. Opposite sides, and let it travel a long way. It can go to the end of the universe, so to speak, one there and the other here. When you change the angle of rotation, it is called spin, the angle of rotation of this particle, immediately, instantaneously, faster than the speed of light, the spin of the correlated particle also changes. Instantaneously. What does this mean? That the two particles are correlated, they are in communication, all the time, forever. From the moment they were correlated, they are communicating. There is only one problem. There is no signal traveling from this particle to this one. There is no signal being sent, carrying information, like a fiber optic cable. There is no signal being transported. And the change is faster than the speed of light, which is the limit that Einstein gave for the speed of anything in the universe. But it is in this dimension. Like this particle, do you know that we change it immediately? This is being used in quantum cryptography. Soon we will buy equipment, cryptography computers using entanglement, the observer, the collapse of the wave function. When you observe, you change everything. We humans, our consciousness observing, changes everything. Soon we will buy a device, for a few $100s, for cryptography. Let's put it on our phone and talk to each other in encrypted form, and no one will be able to understand or violate this code. What is this based on? Quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement, and the spin of particles, and no one will know that this also exists. What are the consequences of this? A device will be used to perform encryption. Do you realize the dimension that this is? It is becoming extremely sophisticated, but the population has no idea what this means. Let's go back. The particle receives information from another instantaneously. Physicists question this, because there is no explanation for this. There is non-local communication. It is easy to give this type of name. What is local? Local is this universe. What is not this universe? It can only be another universe, right? It can only be another dimension. So, this entanglement experiment proves that there are more things than we are seeing. Because in this dimension, in this universe, there is no way to transfer information from one particle to another and change the spin instantaneously, faster than the speed of light. There is no way. So there is only one explanation: there is non-local communication, as they say. There is a question mark in this question. If it were a physics book, you turn the page and start another subject. Do you see how it is set up? There is a physics book, it explains, well, this is non-local communication, and changes the subject. Now let's talk about chocolate cake. You changed the subject. This is the same thing as lifting the rug and throwing all the trash under it and everything is fine. This is how information is handled for the people, for us, do you understand? It is swept under the rug. So, it is very easy to say, communication is non-local, so what? What does that mean? What can be done with that? That is the question, the consequences of this communication existing, because there is a universe that is not in this dimension. There is another, this is proven in quantum mechanics. So, you see, it's a little thing there, another little thing there, another little thing there, and the house of cards of this current paradigm, you do this, snap your fingers, and it falls apart. That's what happened when the electron went through the two holes, it fell apart. Because all of this is based on the absolute separation of everything. He is him and I am me, he demonstrates, indicating him and another person in the audience, therefore, anything I do against him doesn't affect me at all. It's totally justified to do anything, shoot someone else, go to war, kill countless people, because it has nothing to do with me. You are you and I am me, there's nothing that connects us. Nothing. Did you notice? That's how they justify everything. There's no law of cause and effect, because there are no consequences to anything, it's all materialistic. This is the paradigm we live in. You may even think, you may even personally believe, that you believe there are other dimensions, etc. But the whole society is built on materialism. Personally, you can think whatever you want. You can be of whatever religion you want, you can have your beliefs, do whatever you want, but when you go to work, when you take the subway, you are under the materialist paradigm. When you go to the hospital and wait 5 hours to be seen, you are under the materialist paradigm. When you go to school and learn a bunch of stuff that won't be useful at all, and that everything is separate, you are under the materialist paradigm. And so on. So, can you already see the tremendous implications? This will affect your health, your job, your money, your relationships. It will affect everything. So, how are you going to change this in general? How are you not going to suffer the consequences of this paradigm? Only when other people understand this. If you understand quantum mechanics, great, then personally, you will be able to manipulate your reality. Now, what about others? And what happens when you are under the care of a person who believes in particles? Who believes that everything is separate? Who believes in Newton's physics? What do? You have a problem. Do you see? Because if in your company, at your work, at your job, the board of directors, the president of the company, believes in separation, you will work for 4 years without getting a raise, without any recognition, without anything. And you are an extremely important person in the company, and you don't get the slightest recognition. Why? You are you and I am me. There is no connection between us. Do you see how far that goes? All of this is Newton's physics, everyone is separated, so you can drop an atomic bomb, you can do whatever you want against others and there will be no consequences. However, from the moment you understand entanglement, that it is correlated, there is instantaneous communication between particles, which are waves. From the moment he, a person from the audience demonstrates, entered this room and attended this lecture, he and I are correlated. Just by having this contact here, he looked at me and I looked, there is no need to touch him, the observer just needs to look, the wave function has already collapsed. Do you understand? Everything that affects him will also affect me, and everything that affects me will affect him. It is correlated. What is spin? It is the angular momentum of his atoms, a person from the audience demonstrates, of his subatomic particles, he is formed of atoms, oddly enough. So are we. Humans like to think that everything that is material has an atom, that it is possible to do chemistry. We don't. We have nothing to do with atoms. It is precisely so that we don't understand this that this wave exists. There are many experiments, but some are enough for you to understand. Everything is connected through waves, remember? The wave is everywhere. So, his wave, he is a radio station, is emitting a frequency. Is it possible to measure in hertz, kilohertz, megahertz? AM radio is in kilohertz, FM in megahertz. Satellite in gigahertz. How far do you think his wave is? Just 1 meter from him. What is the difference between it and the CD? What is the difference? The CD that you take home, from harmonic resonance. There is no difference. The only thing is that the information you ask for is not recorded on it. But I can record it on it. It's a bit complicated, I'll have to take it home. And every morning you press play for it to play. Do you see that? One thing leads to another. It is a wave field. Anything that has a wave, and everything has a wave, has intrinsic information within it, it is part of it, it is inherent to it. Everything that is a wave has information. Every electromagnetic field is energy and information. Let's go back a little. Einstein's formula. What does it mean? Matter equals energy. You can use matter, mass, or energy. That's what Einstein discovered. Theory of relativity, very good. In World War II, it was concluded that the energy from the plutonium or uranium pellet, which is the element used to make atomic bombs, could be used. It is easier to separate the protons and neutrons.